we're all in. There's no escape.
Not if you're a Christian. Somewhere in, somewhere out.
I know. I had my shoe shined once by a Christian, and I said, and so he's using that as his ministry. So the shoe shine people want to preach. And so, I don't know, I was tired, up all night. And I said, so you're telling me that I'm a Jew, I'm going to hell? And he says, actually, yeah. And I said, I just came back from India, and there's 1.2 billion people there that are Hindus. Are they going to hell too? He says, absolutely. And the Chinese. So we're all in it. So there's no notion that there's no place to go. I want to participate in a prophetic alternative. So the other thing I learned from Walter is the prophets have a job to do. One is to describe the way things are, but not to the point of whining. You just need to say what is. And the big thing is they give voice to the alternative. So when Walter says the second half of Elijah's story is that business was done on the backs of his grace. And in that way, disease was produced, and Elijah was a participant in that because he allowed middle management to make a deal. And don't tell me Elijah didn't know. You can't claim deniability from top management when the middle is making a deal. So Elijah's got to be atoned for that also. Because whoever wrote that story, Elijah read it and vetted it before it went public. Count on it. So nobody can claim innocence. Everybody claims victory. Everybody uses themselves as a role model. It's a fool. So you're saying, what do you want to opt into? Now, the problem of opting into community is you have to create it because it's an alternative vision. It's an alternative. And so it's frightening. That's why the Exodus, how long did it take them to choose Sinai?
Long, long time.
And I asked Walter once, I said, well, what's the methodology of this transformation? And he says, dance. So people say, well, how do you move from empire to community according to my Elijah, my uncredentialed friend? Dance. So Miriam danced, right? And so art is the methodology of community. So if you have people say, could you be specific? Okay, the engineer asked that question. Could you give me a blueprint towards freedom?
Right.
Then I'm happy to answer the question, but you answer with an answer that is not an answer. You say art. So why don't you learn to dance? And it's not dancing that nobody's watching. Somebody's always watching. Why don't you learn to dance as if somebody's watching? And so if you can move your legs, you can dance. If you can write, you can draw. If you can speak, you can sing. And so art is the prophetic methodology. And you call it poetry in the Bible.
Right.
And so so what do you want to opt into? What do you want to create together? The Occupy movement got stuck, not because they couldn't name the alternative. It's because they couldn't get along. So Occupy Cincinnati is stuck. Because the Empire said, well, what's your alternative? It's Biscuit Park. And they're smart. They said, our alternative is a shift in context. I won't be seduced by recommendations about what to do with the Federal Reserve System. Because the premise of the Federal Reserve System is that the private sector knows best what to do with the economy. And so there's a Bank of North Dakota that's been a public bank, only one in the country since 1916. And North Dakota's economy has not been cyclical. And so they've managed for the common good. So they avoid the unemployment, they avoid the inflation. So I would say don't opt out of anything, because it leaves me nowhere. All right, I spent the first 25 years of my life trying to not be unhappy, which isn't very thrilling. How are you doing? I'm not unhappy. Leave me alone. That was my life stance. And so feedback does the same thing. Strength assessment does the same thing. What are your strengths? I love that. But then the next sentence is, and how are you going to maximize them? So I'm a stance for knowing my gifts and not maximizing them. So maximizing is the empire language. So you might say, what's the role of the church? Is to help organize me into a communal alternative and co-create with us. So Walter and I are catalysts because we speak, organize, invent with us the plebeian protocols, name them, and collectively we can name them. And the act of trying to name what we opt into, which is the work of the church, that act is the transformation.